Ladies and gentlemen, I'm pleased to announce that the National Party caucus has just elected me as the new leader of the party and Paula Bennett as the deputy leader. I want to thank my colleagues for the trust they've shown in me and for the constructive and civil manner in which they have debated over and chosen a new leadership team. I welcome Paula as the deputy leader. I'm proud to have a smart, accomplished and energetic woman as National's first female Deputy Prime Minister and New Zealand's second only Deputy Prime Minister who's a woman. She brings with her the political experience of winning and holding marginal seats, implementing world-leading welfare reforms, and an inspiring journey from teenage solo mum to Deputy Prime Minister of New Zealand. I also want to thank and acknowledge Jonathan Coleman, Judith Collins and Simon Bridges for a contest that focused on the challenges that lie ahead for our country and the kind of government needed to meet those challenges. I'd like to thank the outgoing Prime Minister for his service to this country. His strong and positive leadership has guided New Zealand through recession and natural disaster. Because of his unwavering confidence and optimism, New Zealand is a better, more confident country. I also want to acknowledge and thank my wife Mary and our children, Luke, Thomas, Maria, Rory, Bart and Xavier. We have together seen the best and worst of politics. Their inspiration and support has brought us all here. Can I say how excited I am to be leading a strong team of MPs full of ideas about how we can make New Zealand an even better place to live, to work and to raise a family. In the coming months and years, we will focus on building the roads, public transport, schools and houses needed to support a strong economy and the growing population. We'll also focus on better incomes for our households, safer communities and smarter government support for the most vulnerable. This will be a government supporting economic growth and ensuring that the benefits of growth are widely shared. I will also seek to build on the international recognition earned by John Key for New Zealand's increasingly distinctive place in the global community as a successful economy, open to trade, open to investment and immigration. The National Party has always valued enterprise, hard work and the rewards that go with success. We recognise the aspiration of all New Zealanders to flourish. We support those who take risks to create new jobs and new businesses, and equally we support those who courageously leave behind welfare dependency to move into work, or who honestly face the impact of violence in their homes so their children can grow up safe and whole. These decisions are all of significant economic and social benefit to our communities. I believe that by supporting families, businesses, volunteers, iwi, unions and churches, government can do a better job of changing lives. Last Thursday, after it was apparent that I may succeed in the leadership of the National Party, I went to a women's leadership conference I'd been booked in to speak at, and there I heard a poem performed by Selina Tusitala March, in which she said, "Lead and dig up the diamonds around you." That is our task together. Ladies and gentlemen, Deputy Leader of the National Party, Paula Bennett.
I am honoured to have been selected to be the Deputy Leader of the National Party. This is a party that I have belonged to for a very long time and one I am immensely proud to be a member of. To serve the National Party as Deputy Leader is a great privilege and a responsibility that I take very seriously. And there is no one that I would rather be standing next to and supporting then very soon to be Prime Minister Bill English. We have worked closely together for many years. I deeply admire and respect him. He will serve this country as Prime Minister with drive, determination and compassion. And he has a really strong team and caucus standing behind him. Our caucus are incredibly talented and hardworking, and I am looking forward to working more closely with them in my new role and serving my country in this new role as well. Thank you.
Any questions? Later in the week, but certainly before Christmas. Well, that's yet to be seen, but as soon as we can reasonably get through all the processes. Oh, the important thing is a cabinet that can make decisions we think are going to work for New Zealand. So the capacity to understand the issues and make positive decisions, and also with a view to getting the kind of mix we want in the cabinet for a government that could run through after 2017 should we win that election. Well, you'll just have to wait and see, but there will be change. Sorry? Look, I simply don't know. Those issues, will come up, no doubt come up in discussion this week.
What sort of Prime Minister do you think? What sort of Prime Minister do you think will be New Zealand?
Oh, look, I want to be a positive Prime Minister for New Zealand. I think that we're a country that's matured in many ways since the very difficult period we had in the late 80s and early 90s. I've been able to watch that whole process. And I want to be a Prime Minister where New Zealanders feel that they can flourish here, and not just some of them, but all of them.
How will New Zealand's relationship to the rest of the world change here? How do you see a crucial relationship with President Trump?
Well, we've had a period of a good relationship between John Key and President Obama. Clearly that's now changed. As the small country, we need to do all the work. And I'm sure it will be, like everyone else's relationship with the US, something we need to think through. But it's been critical to us. We've just recently had, the first US ship in 40 years in our harbour, so the fundamental relationship's in great shape. And we'd like to, use the opportunity of the relationship with the US to influence them, on issues that matter to us. Look, I think we'll continue in the tradition of honest broker. I think while we're a small country, because of the increasing international recognition of our good economy, open to trade, political stability, we're not having to deal with some of the difficult issues other countries are. I think we can have a bit more influence as a positive, forward-thinking country.
Mr. English, why do you think you'll be able to lead National to a better result this next year than you did in 2002?
Oh, well, completely different circumstances for a start. Not up against a first. Helen Clark trying to win her first election in government at a time when the Labor Party was probably at its peak. It's declined a long way since then, so they're a different opponent. And I've learned a lot since then. I think I've said it this week, you learn more from losing than you do from winning. New Zealand just has such a fantastic platform. I'm pleased to have been part of the team with John Key in setting that platform. And so it's a fantastic opportunity to move ahead. Oh, well, I'm an active Catholic and proud of it. It's, had been an influence in forming my judgment, forming my conscience. It's no guarantee of virtue or perfection, that's for sure. And I think people can make up their own mind about how that's impacted my public life. I recognise other people have different sets of beliefs, and they motivate those people to do the best they can to do good. So and I suppose the last point I make is it doesn't define me, but it's an important influence. On some of those issues, I may be. My views around abortion and euthanasia, I think, are pretty well known. I'd probably vote differently now on the gay marriage issue. I don't think that gay marriage is a threat to anyone else's marriage. But again, I don't intend to use the position to try and influence those issues. They've been dealt with by the Parliament and by the process of law, and I accept that.
What's changed your view on gay marriage?
Just seeing the impact it's had for couples, and the fact that it doesn't erode marriage in some ways. It's an affirmation of the concept. Sorry? Yes, I would. Yes, I would. Sorry? I don't have a timetable for a republic. I'll probably be having some communication with the Queen shortly, and she might even ask me about that. Look, I always think constitutional change needs to come from the people, particularly in a country without a written constitution. It's important to have popular assent to change. And so I wouldn't see myself as an individual driving that kind of change. I think it's best to be genuinely grassroots. Oh, look, I'm a supporter of the monarchy. Maybe not. I am a supporter of the monarchy. It'd be hard to match the enthusiasm of the previous Prime Minister.
Prime Minister John Collins, will you meet with the families from Pike River when they come to Parliament tomorrow, and are you prepared to reassess going into that line?
Look, I simply won't have the time tomorrow, to be honest. I mean, they've as I understand it, sought an appointment quite recently, but happy to consider meeting with them at some stage later. But I'd need to, have a very good look at the situation.
And in terms of reconsidering whether people can go into that line, are you prepared as Prime Minister to reconsider that?
Look, I certainly wouldn't move to a position like that without further consideration. So I'll consider meeting with them, but not in a position to say that we change what's happening.
You're open to listening to the families, please, to get into that line?
Well, I'm open to listening to the families, but not mislead anyone. It's not a political decision about whether someone goes in the mine. Look, that's not a matter I'm going to be dealing with in the next 12 or 24 hours. I'm willing to give consideration to meet with the families, but it's not the issue that we're going to deal with in the next day or two. Well, people will make up their minds about the English government compared to the key government. That's their business. I'm just making it clear that I believe it's an important part of the progress of New Zealand, that as we have a strong economy, almost uniquely in the developed world, most New Zealanders would expect to be able to share in the benefits of that, and government has the opportunity over the next 4 or 5 years to assist.
Just on the Prime Minister.
Social investment approach, would you see yourself retaining some sort of, being the custodian of that, or passing it on to another minister?
Well, that'll be worked out through the cabinet process, but regardless of ministerial arrangements, I will be taking an overview of it, because I am firmly of the view that government can do a better job with supporting the most vulnerable. There's no reason. We need to be much more active, much more focused on those who have huge challenges, and government has enormous capacity to do a better job, and I want to make sure that happens. Well, we haven't had any discussion about that. I mean, part of the discussion of the last week, is to give us the opportunity to take a bit of a stock take with policy, go through, just check how it looks in the light of change of leadership, the proximity of the election, and changes in the team over the next week or so. Well, I'm not making the same pledge as the previous Prime Minister did. That was a product of its time where there was a need to establish trust. And I think it was a sound decision then, because the election was followed by a recession which could have caused real insecurity for older people. I think now we have built credibility as a government that we will support those who are dependent on government for income. We won't put them in a worse position. We'll work to get them in a better position. And that maintains, that is currently the policy.
One of the things we've heard a lot about from the backbench over the past week is a desire to be more included in the decision-making process. How would you see that playing out?
Well, my deputy leader here, Paula, is going to be overseeing that. There's a natural opportunity for it now as we head into election year. Any government gets involved in its own processes. There's an opportunity now to clear the deck somewhat, to get focused on the policies we want to take through election year, and of necessity that requires the caucus to be involved. And I think we're also going to be running a bit of a broader team, because the previous Prime Minister had a capacity that took up a lot of political space. We're going to have more people with a sense of purpose to be able to do that.
Prime Minister, does that mean having more people in cabinet?
No.
You cabinet included?
Well, there's a limit on the executive and we'll stick to that.
Does that policy rethink include housing? Would you take a fresh look at the idea of more government involvement in building housing?
Well, that's already... Well, look, we will be doing a stock take, but the government's already pretty heavily involved, and you'll see more of that rolling out over the next 12 months.
Just on the ministerial, does that mean possibly more ministers outside cabinet?
No, look, there's a limit on the executive. It's a self-imposed one, but one that we need to stick to. So you shouldn't expect to see an expansion of the executive numbers.
What's your position when it comes to working with Winston Peters?
Sorry?
What's your position on particularly working with Winston Peters?
Well, look, that's really a matter for election 2017. We'll be focusing on what the things the government needs to do, as I outlined in my remarks. Look, we've got a historical relationship. I was in the caucus in the early 90s when Winston Peters was there, but our focus is on policy that's going to work for New Zealand. We've got a coalition in place. That's naturally who we're working with, and the business of worrying about New Zealand first, I think, will arise after an election.
John David Lee's strong relationship with Malcolm Turnbull. What's your relationship like with Malcolm Turnbull, and how do you see the New Zealand-Australia relationship progressing under Prime Minister Billingsley?
Oh, look, it'll progress positively. We need Australia to be doing well. That helps our economy. I know Malcolm, I know a number of their other senior politicians fairly well. New Zealand's getting quite a good press coverage over in Australia. They've got a positive attitude towards us, and I think that bodes well for an ongoing positive relationship. The progress of it now is always going to be incremental, because we have one of the most integrated economies between two sovereign countries in the world. So I wouldn't see big shifts in it, but certainly continuing to build on that integration, because it works for New Zealand.
Are you open to pushing for things that New Zealand and Australia want, like more access to the NDIS program, Medicare benefits, things like that? Are you open to looking at that?
Yes, we will be. That's been the government's position. I think it's important that particularly our people with the significant needs like disability deserve to have support. But look, I haven't spoken to Malcolm Turnbull yet. I'll be doing that today, and it will kick off the next stage in the relationship.
Prime Minister, will you...
Look, we'll deal with that early in the new year, when there's a cabinet in place, the Prime Minister's actually in place, but we'll signal it.
We're going to follow as an example, like when you set the date in February.
Well, you'll just have to wait and see.
Prime Minister, are you prepared to call an election to avoid a by-election in Mount Albert?
I think one of the worst reasons for having an election in New Zealand are the fact that the Labour Party losing their moderate members and their competent members. So no, we won't be driven by their internal problems. We're driven by what works for New Zealand, not what works for the Labour Party.
Just back on coalition arrangements, are you signalling the fact that the stays of the coalition you've got and what support partners you've got with acting the Māori Party?
Well, I've still got to go through the process of ensuring their support for the renewed leadership of the National Party. So I'm not signalling anything about what might be complicated, negotiations after an election. But we have partners who are committed to stable government. We work together well. They stretch us. We've achieved a lot, and it'd be great to have that continue going ahead.
All right, if you win in 2017, Prime Minister, do you give New Zealand public an undertaking that you will stay on for the full term if you win in 2017?
That is about 3 layers of hypothetical questions there. I've still yet to be sworn in as Prime Minister, but thank you for your confidence.
Can I ask the Deputy a question? Now, over the last couple of days, you began life as a solo mother at 17. Have you had to pinch yourself? Because it's been a relatively meteoric rise for you in politics.
There's certainly been moments over the last couple of days where my husband and I, who knew me as a teenager, and my parents and family have kind of reflected on sort of where I was and where I am now. There was, a moment when I was a 17-year-old Māori solo mum in Taupo with school with no qualifications. I didn't have a job, and it looked pretty bleak actually. And I reckon it's a credit to this country more that there are opportunities and actually we get a second chance. And if you step up to them and then step in, New Zealanders reward you for that hard work. And it's what drove me to the National Party actually was that real drive behind it that you can do every day. You can really make something of yourself and they'll give you a second chance. So the last couple of days have been pretty reflective, I must say.
Are we going to see a more serious Paula Bennett now?
I think you'll see all of who I am. I love this country and I've got a role to play now with my caucus, and it's a different role. So I think you will see me step up and into that. I see myself very much a support role to the Prime Minister, and that's a huge privilege for me. So I think not necessarily more serious, but I take this job incredibly seriously, as I think I have right throughout my parliamentary career actually.
Any aspirations to step up further?
No, this is just great, thanks.
When do you want the Warren O'Donnell in the position you are in today? What do you say to that?
I know how incredibly hard it is, and I also know that I'm about to tell them that there is opportunities out there and that their future is not predetermined. And I know them hearing me say that they will be sitting there going, yeah, all right for her to say. It is really hard to see beyond the day, to let alone think about where you might be a week, a month or years from now, because it's kind of can be a bit of a day-to-day struggle out there for too many New Zealanders. And I think that under Prime Minister Bill English, that we can really drive a different change for all New Zealanders, as he has pointed out. And so I do say to them that there's opportunities and that people will give you a second chance. And even with baby in tow, you can sort of pick that up, and there's some remarkable people that will back you. And I also recognise that what I'm asking of them is a really big call, and quite hard for them to see it sometimes.
And in terms of your role facilitating the voice of the backbench coming through, how do you see that working? What sort of discussions have you had with the backbench about that?
Oh, look, our backbench are incredible, as are all our caucus, and I've always worked closely with them, and I must say, in recent times in climate change, I've got some really strong backbenchers that know a lot about it and are really interested in the area. So as Bill English has said, we think about we're working really closely with them on our policy manifesto next year, how we do that. We've got some great opportunities right across government, actually in different areas that we're working in, that outreach to the public and how we spread our message, getting the best out of them, which is going to be a struggle because they're so good. So I'm going to have to really look at how we do that and where we do it. But there's a lot of opportunities, and I'll just be playing my part in making sure that they really do have them.
You're the first Māori in a leadership team for a long, long time in New Zealand.
Yes, I am, and I am incredibly proud of my Māori heritage and where I come from. Like a lot of New Zealanders, I grew up certainly knowing that I was Tainui, certainly recognising that, particularly through my grandmother in the Waikato, and so I know where I come from and I know what that means. But I also grew up in a household that didn't speak Māori and that was kind of focused on being a New Zealander, so I can't pretend to be someone I'm not. I didn't grow up on Mira Marae. So I kind of bring all of who I am, and if I hope that I can show the respect to the role and being a Māori woman that brings.
Prime Minister, will you be giving consideration to giving John Key a nominee?
Well, it's not as if he's never asked. I'm sure that at some time that will be appropriate. I would intend to continue the communication style of the Prime Minister to the extent that that's possible.
Will you do it at the Premier House?
At the moment, it appears no. We're happy to be in the House room.
Is John Key going to stay on in the meantime at the Premier House?
No, John's packed his office and he goes off to the Governor General this afternoon.
Yeah,
becomes a backbencher.
But you've got to live in Wellington.
Look, I honestly don't know the answer to that question.
So who will live in the Premier House?
Well, look, that'll be sorted out, but probably not us.
Will Paul be in it?
I don't know, look, that's yet to be sorted out. I'm sure it's on the minds of every New Zealander.
You mentioned that you did work with
sort of anti-establishment votes this year in England and in the US. Do you see that as a liability potentially going into 2017, being an establishment candidate that could have this sort of uprising?
Oh, no, I don't. Although it's always a warning to be listening very carefully. But this is a government that has spent a lot of time engaging pretty directly with a very wide range of people. I mean, our ministers are out there consulting all the time. It's become part of the style of the government. So I think we're in a good position to pick that up. I've been part of conversations just in the last few months around New Zealand where talking with voters about where those voters might be. And, we have the ability to, I think, listen pretty carefully. But equally, the economy here has performed better than most others, so we don't have the same large pool of people who feel like they're missing out. And an economy growing at 3.5% as it is now, the opportunities have been there for most people. There's always someone, though, for whom we can do better, and we're committed to finding them, working out what's going to work, and doing better.
How is the summarise the difference between an English-led government and a Kiwi-led government?
Well, I don't think we can yet because there isn't yet an English-led government. That'll start this afternoon. And look, in any case, the public will decide about those differences. John Key has given me and the caucus a fantastic opportunity to build on his remarkable leadership. He'd be the first to say there is so much more to be done. And we recognise that and we're organising ourselves for it. We'll have different circumstances. We're not heading into a recession. Hopefully there aren't a series of major earthquakes out ahead of us. The global circumstances are a bit different, so the government will be a bit different.
You elaborate about helping people who are less fortunate and so today. Do you think that's a characteristic, a different characteristic of what your government and the key government?
Look, again, people will make their own judgment. The government's been on a track. The current, under John Key, the current government has supported, for instance, the first increase in benefit levels for families with children on welfare in 40 years. So I think a few pegs have been laid down, and we're signalling that we'll be continuing down that road.
Can you elaborate on the Selina to Sakala Marsh priority and what you sort of particularly mean by that kind of comments?
Oh, just simply that, in a country that's going well, people have the opportunity, and you find them everywhere. Part of the privilege of politics is people who, in our electorate offices, you find are making hugely courageous decisions with very difficult lives, and with a bit smarter support from government, could really achieve their aspirations, and their aspirations, are different from everybody else's. I've never been in a community where there isn't someone with the vision and the energy to change how it works. And so I suppose it's someone else said something that I meant, and that's why I quoted it.
So you're talking about diamonds throughout New Zealand society?
Well, look, yes, the government isn't the answer to everything. Most of our answers are in our own families and communities. Sometimes government gets in the way of that. This is a government that is going to be focused on understanding at a very individual level what's going to work with people, and then supporting them to achieve it. And that's underway. It's part of our social investment focus, for instance, is really understanding our customers. What is it that a 23-year-old with mental illness really wants, and what can we do to ensure they get it? The same as going into a business or talking with young entrepreneurial people. What is it we can do so that they can achieve those aspirations? And look, it is a political difference between us and the current Labor Greens coalition who believe the government's the answer to everything.
Just going back to Winston Peters, you did mention that you've worked with them in the past. Was it a good working relationship, or was it challenging at times?
Challenging at times.
Would you be happy to have that with the requirements that are coalition around the party?
Again, there's several layers of hypothetical. We've got to.
It's not that hard.
Oh, well, it is, and
but would you be happy to have that with the requirements?
those issues will be dealt with at the time.
Judith Collins, though, in this race for the leadership, mentioned that it was important to start working with other opposition parties, including Winston Peters, right now. Do you not believe the same?
Well, we're always working with opposition parties trying to get support for legislation. Now, people forget that we need votes in the Parliament every time we pass a bill. Some of the legislation that we're working with has been quite challenging in getting the numbers. So if New Zealand First are there to assist us consistent with their rhetoric, then we're happy to have their support. But that's fundamentally how the relationship works.
What's your position on the community approaching the sanctuary? Do you still want to go ahead, and what's your message to the iwi on it?
Yes, we do want it to go ahead, and we'll just find a way. We've managed to solve quite a few complex problems with iwi over the last 7 or 8 years. When you get an atmosphere of trust, it's always possible to find progress, and I've been part of that, and I'm sure we'll find a way. It could take a while, though.
Just on Hydro, can you clarify your position, just because I'm a bit confused about the earlier answers? Should the bodies stay?
No, I'm not taking a view about that. All that's been asked of me is whether I'll meet with the families, and the answer, and they want me to agree with them that people will go into the mine. I'm willing to consider it, but I don't want to mislead them that it's a political decision. It is not a political decision about whether someone goes in that mine. It's a safety decision, and we've already seen the consequences as they are bearing them of what happens when things go wrong in a mine.
So under your leadership, it's a blank page in terms of white ribbons, you'll consider all the options?
No, I wouldn't characterise it that way, and look, I need to get sworn in as a Prime Minister. I said I'm willing to consider meeting with the families at some stage. It won't be possible tomorrow, and I don't want to mislead them that I can, as a new Prime Minister, make that mine safer or change the law in New Zealand.
John tourism and other Prime Ministers before David Loggins education. Is there one particular portfolio that you yourself want to make?
Look, I'm in a slightly different position because I've been in the core of the government for 8 years, so I've got a pretty good knowledge across the whole range of portfolios. So at this stage, it's unlikely that I will pick one out. but I think the ministers and the public service, I think, will be reasonably clear that some of the issues I've focused on over recent years, I'll continue to focus on.
You mentioned we had a 23-year-old woman with mental illness. Do you think mental illness is one of the areas that the government needs to put all the focus on?
We already are, but we've got some way to go to change the way government works so that we can be more effective for that young woman. But that's all part of the policy making process.
You mentioned earlier that you were going to continue with some of the finance traditions, such as the press conference. Will you be making pre-Christmas appearances on commercial radio?
I don't know. I haven't been asked, but I'm sure that there'll be some discussion about the nature of those appearances.
Several journalists have written about your taking of that finger. Have you got the right temperament to be Prime Minister? Have you learned anything over the last few years?
I've learned an awful lot. And John Kelly had a fantastic temperament. I've learned a lot from him, but also have a pretty good temperament. You know, politics is often about things that do really matter. Sometimes it's about things that don't matter, and there's no point in getting upset about those. But I don't mind at all my ministers, members of the public expressing strong and sometimes divergent views about things that matter to them. That's part of people believing in things.
Just back on Buck about defamation, the line you see as currently named.
I don't have any different answer to your different question than what I've already given.
Can New Zealanders expect your social conservatism to play the way you lead?
Look, it's I'm quite happy with my views. I know that the views that a number of people don't deal with. I found New Zealanders don't mind your view as long as they know what it is.
You're not really activist in the sense that you'd be advocating the position on the
That's right, I've made it clear I wouldn't use the position of Prime Minister around those particular issues. But I think that there's social conservatism is a pretty broad label on issues such as how we deal with family violence, for instance. I think people want to see a government that understands intact families without violence are much better for our community. And so in that sense I'm influenced. The sort of renaissance we see among Māori about putting back together some of the effects of 30 or 40 years, 50 years of welfare dependency is very encouraging.
It's not bringing in house, but you sell that, or you possibly sell it.
No, and I think that brings the end of question time. Thank you very much.